She talked about helping people, now she only talks about luxury brands. I don't recognize the woman I fell in love with. Backstory. I met my girlfriend Kylie, fake name, in community college 7 years ago. We became really close friends and started dating 2 years later. At the time, she wanted to be a nurse, which was great. She was really passionate about it, and I fully supported her. I ended up transferring to a 4-year university and earning my MBA. Kylie supported me emotionally the entire time through school, which I'm grateful for. Kylie's parents ended up cutting her off financially because of her spending habits. She ended up taking a year off to work to help her with her bills. In the meantime, I invested all my savings, time, and energy into a startup platform with my best friend in the automotive industry. Earlier this year, we were bought out for a life-changing amount of money. We were both kept on as consultants with a high-paying salary as well. Kylie had kept her job at the jewelry store this entire time. After the buyout, she told me she was handing her 2 weeks in. I offered to pay for her school and expenses. At first, she was excited to go back and earn her nursing degree. I ended up purchasing a condo for us to live in, big step up from our apartment, close to her school. Over the weekend, we were talking, and she threw out the fact that she wasn't sure about wanting to go back to school, and that she could be a stay-at-home wife. We're not married. I didn't say anything in the moment because I wasn't sure on how to respond. Part of what attracted me to her in the first place was her ambition. It just doesn't sit right with me that she quit her job and career goals after I came into money. Her shopping spending has also gone up. She's been looking at new cars. I could be overreacting, but something just doesn't seem right. I still love her and want it to work out, but I don't like this new side of her I'm seeing. Update 1. It's been a few days since I posted about Kylie, and I haven't really let this whole situation rest. I mean, 7 years is a long time to be with someone, and it's hard to just flip a switch and look at them differently overnight. But since our talk, I've been doing a lot of thinking, maybe even overthinking. So after she mentioned the whole, maybe I could be a stay-at-home wife thing, it stuck with me. I tried to ignore it at first, thinking maybe she was just in one of those in a perfect world kind of moods. But then I started noticing some other changes. For example, her spending has picked up even more. I know I mentioned she'd already been spending more, but it's ramped up, like she suddenly has no limit. She's been eyeing this expensive SUV and talking about how nice it would be to drive something more practical and safe. Except, practical and safe apparently costs $70,000, which is over double what she's making at the jewelry store. Now, to be clear, I don't mind spending money on her. I mean, she's been my partner for almost a decade, and she's supported me through some tough times. When I was juggling work and my MBA program, she was there for all the late nights and endless stress. She was the one who'd drop off coffee or surprise me with a quick phone call between her shifts. I genuinely want to see her happy, but this feels different. I'm starting to feel like I'm just a wallet. Maybe that sounds harsh, but that's the gut feeling. Anyway, after sitting with this feeling for a while, I decided it was time for an honest conversation. So, over dinner last night, I brought it up, trying to be as gentle as possible. I asked if she was still planning to go back to nursing school, or if she'd actually changed her mind. And, not going to lie, her reaction threw me off. She got kind of defensive, which isn't typical for her. She started talking about how she felt pressured into nursing by her parents, and how maybe it wasn't what she wanted all along. She said, "I only kept pushing myself because you always seemed so sure about what you wanted. I thought I had to keep up." This hit me because I had no idea she felt that way. I thought she was genuinely passionate about nursing, but now I'm second-guessing everything. Has she just been going along with what she thought I expected? Then I asked her if there was anything else she wanted to do, career-wise, and if she felt like going back to school could help her explore some other field. I suggested that maybe, with the resources we have now, she could take her time figuring out what she wants. She looked at me with this confused expression, almost like she didn't understand why I was encouraging her to go back to school if we had enough money to live comfortably. She actually said, "But isn't the point of all this so we can relax a little?" I honestly didn't know how to respond. It's like we're speaking two different languages here. I see this financial success as a tool to help us pursue things we're passionate about without the constant worry of scraping by. To me, it's about security and freedom, not just relaxation. and she seems to be looking at it like we've hit some magic reset button where responsibilities and goals don't matter as much. So I asked her, what would you even do with your time if you didn't go back to school or work? I was trying to understand what she saw for herself, and her answer was, I'd finally be able to enjoy life. I could take up hobbies, travel, maybe even start a blog or something. I get that, to an extent. I mean, it's not like I haven't fantasized about taking off on a trip or spending time on side projects. But to me, those are things you do after you've built something or achieved a certain level of stability. They're not the main course, they're the dessert. The conversation kept spiraling. Every time I tried to bring it back to the idea of working towards something, she'd go back to this idea of enjoying life. I asked her if she was still interested in helping people, which was something she used to talk about a lot when she was excited about becoming a nurse. She looked at me blankly, like she didn't really remember saying that. She just said, "That was so long ago. People change." I get that people change. I mean, I've changed too. But part of what made us work as a couple was that we both had ambitions. We supported each other, and I thought we had this shared understanding that we were building a future together. Now, I'm starting to feel like I'm the only one who still sees things that way. The next day, while she was out with friends, I took some time to look at our finances more closely. Not in a paranoid way, but just to see what was going on. When I checked her recent purchases, I was a little surprised. I'd seen the usual stuff, clothes, makeup, and things she usually buys, but there was also a hefty number of self-care items, like luxury bath bombs, spa treatments, massages, and some kind of guided meditation app subscription that cost more per month than our old electricity bill. She's always been into self-care, but this level of spending is new. I decided not to bring it up right away because I wanted to understand why she was spending so much more on herself lately. Maybe she's just in a phase or trying to treat herself after working hard for so long, but part of me is worried that this is her new normal, and if that's the case, I'm not sure what to do. It's strange. On the one hand, I feel like I should be happy. I mean, we're in a better financial situation than we ever dreamed of, and this should be a time for us to enjoy things together. But on the other hand, I'm just feeling this growing distance between us, like we're on different pages about what this means for our future. The person I fell in love with was driven, compassionate, and had her own goals. Now, she seems content just to float, spending money on whatever catches her eye and calling it enjoying life. Maybe I'm just overreacting, or maybe she needs some time to adjust. But if this is what she really wants, just a life of leisure without any real purpose or direction, I'm not sure I can get on board with that. Part of me wants to bring this up with her again and just be totally blunt, but I'm worried that if I push too hard, it'll just drive us further apart. So, I'm stuck in this weird in-between space, unsure if I'm being supportive or just enabling something I'm uncomfortable with. Right now, I feel like I'm watching her drift further from who she used to be, and I don't know if there's anything I can do to bring her back. Update 2. Update 2. After a few more days, things went from feeling off to downright tense. Kylie's been living in her own world lately, doing her thing, and spending way more time on what she calls self-care. But it's no longer just the usual spa days. Now it's private yoga classes, pricey skincare routines, and even a personal stylist she mentioned offhand one night. I still haven't confronted her about the expenses, but it's hard not to notice. I kept thinking, maybe I'm overthinking this. So I decided to give it a shot, just let things flow. Maybe she just needed time to figure things out, right? But then yesterday, things escalated. We were having dinner, and I casually mentioned that I'd been thinking of doing a weekend trip somewhere, something low-key like a cabin up north. Her response? She suggested Europe. Not just Europe, but a whole month-long trip through all the places we've talked about, complete with first-class flights, fancy hotels, and private tours. She even mentioned flying some of her friends out to meet us in Paris. The sheer scale of it hit me, and for a minute, I just sat there, trying to process. I asked her if she was joking. She looked genuinely confused and said something like, "What's the point of all the money if we don't actually live?" I tried explaining that I'm not opposed to spending money, but this feels so different from what we used to talk about. We used to talk about simple things like buying a house, planning for the future, and maybe taking some vacations here and there. This just felt excessive. I asked if we could maybe start with a shorter, more budget-friendly trip, but she shrugged it off, saying we shouldn't limit ourselves when there's no reason to. It's like I don't even recognize her anymore. The girl who used to roll her eyes at influencers and talk about how over-the-top people could be is suddenly the one pushing for this luxurious lifestyle. I thought maybe it was just excitement over our financial security, that she was caught up in the possibilities. But the more I watch her, the more I wonder if this is her new reality. So, I tried to switch gears and bring up the topic of the condo I bought, thinking maybe it would ground her a little. I suggested that we start looking into decorating it together, make it feel like a real home since we both love the idea of settling down. She looked at me and actually said, "I don't know if that's where I want to live long term. It's a little basic." That one hit hard. I've spent months researching and saving up, thinking I was creating something for us to build on together, only to find out she might not even want it. That's when I asked her if she still felt connected to the life we were building, or if she'd rather focus on something else. She got defensive again, saying that she deserves a chance to enjoy life, that she's put in the work already and wants to try new things. When I asked what kind of things, she mentioned a vague interest in becoming a lifestyle influencer. She even suggested that the trip she wants to take could help her build a brand. I was honestly stunned. In the years we've been together, I've never heard her express even a passing interest in that world. The whole influencer idea feels like it came out of nowhere, but she was serious about it. She talked about how people follow influencers for inspiration, and how she could start her own page to promote wellness and travel. I'm not saying she can't go for it if that's really what she wants, but I can't shake this feeling that she's chasing something totally ungrounded. The woman I knew was about authenticity. Now, she's talking about personal stylists, brand partnerships, and even video editors. She's already set up meetings with a few content consultants who could help her develop a strategy. I honestly don't know what to make of it. Part of me feels guilty because I wonder if this sudden shift is somehow my fault. Maybe coming into money triggered something, like she suddenly felt a new kind of pressure or saw an opportunity to live this Instagram perfect life. But on the other hand, I've always seen wealth as something that could make life easier, not something that would define us. This just doesn't feel like the life we talked about or even the person I've been with for years. At this point, I can't help but wonder if we want completely different things. She's talking about selling an image of our life, while I'm thinking about investments, stability, and living comfortably. I feel like I'm looking at a stranger, someone who's drifted so far from the person who used to bring me soup when I was pulling all-nighters for exams, or who'd talk for hours about her dream of helping people as a nurse. I don't know if it's me overthinking, or if we're just in completely different places now. Last night, I stayed up late just going over all of this in my head. I looked through some old photos, and I kept going back to the memories of when we were both working minimum wage jobs, making late-night food runs, and talking about our dreams for the future. Back then, everything felt real, like we were on the same page, working towards something bigger together. But now, the connection we had feels like it's slipping through my fingers, and I'm just here trying to hold on to it, hoping she'll see it too. I haven't confronted her about the influencer thing yet. I'm not sure if it's because I don't want to argue, or because I'm just hoping she'll wake up and realize this isn't who she used to be. It's hard watching someone you love start to drift into a world you don't even recognize. I still want to support her, but if she's going down this path, I don't know if it's one I can follow.